Hi and welcome, or even welcome back if you're following along with our video series called Under the Hood. This is a UTD video series that's really based around getting to know everything about UTD, what really is underneath the hood, what really is driving us forward. As we've learned in the previous video series, you've learned a little bit about myself, Andrew, a little bit about Jeff, the co-founder, a little bit about UTD's background, and some of the important things like what is our mission and purpose? You know, what are the roots of UTD? You might have learned a little bit about the philosophy, a little bit about our ethos, our 10 covenants, our teaching philosophy, our equipment philosophy, and even learned a little bit about the core. You know, the core, if you remember, was the diver. And we ended last time with a very, very important core message, which was start with the end in mind. And if you remember, maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you haven't, go back and watch them. Really go back and go through them in sequence. It's really a great way to get to know UTD and what we're talking about. And a little bit about today's subjects, which we call the training path. If you remember, we kind of ended up last time with this idea of end goal in mind. And no sooner had I finished filming that I get a phone call from a local guy, actually his local means that he's LA, and he says to me, he says, hey, you know, I'm really trying to understand balanced rig, we'll talk about that, and I'm really trying to understand all the stuff, and what I noticed is that if I use a 5mm wetsuit, then maybe I can get away with this and with that. And I said, stop. I said, stop. Remember the end goal in mind. Start with the end goal. What is your end goal? Well, you want to be a technical diver. You want to go 190 feet, 200 feet, 60 meters. You want to do X amount of decompression. You know, whatever your end goal is. I don't know. That his was he wants to do technical diving. And I said, okay. So with that in mind, when you're designing your equipment, start with the end goal in mind. Start by saying, well, I need a dry suit. Why? Well, because a dry suit is not only balanced, but it thermally protects you due to long exposures, blah, blah, blah. So if you're thinking 5mm wetsuit now, and then you're going to take your essentials class and you're going to build your skills, and then you're going to take your next level, Rec 3 or whatever it is, and then you'll take recreational, and before you know it, you're going to need a dry suit. You're going to have to restart over with the dry suit. Take a dry suit class, relearn dry suit, get experience in dry suit diving, and so forth. Whereas if you started with the end goal in mind, you said, look, this is what I want to do. This is how I'm going to build my equipment package. And I'm going to slowly build it so that I can end with my end goal in mind. Then you get a dry suit 2-day and start working on a 2-day. See, that's our philosophy. Well, guess what? How does that relate to this? Well, it's the same with training. Don't hodgepodge your training together. A lot of people, you know, when they first wanted to learn to dive, they called up and they said, I'm going on a Caribbean cruise and I want to learn to dive. Or maybe you saw your friend into diving, he or she's going out and getting lobsters because lobster season's now open, and you want to go get lobster. And you don't realize there's so much more to scuba diving. There's this whole training path. So what we provide is kind of a training path. We have a recreational path. We have a technical overhead rebreather path. And of course, we have a leadership path. Now, a lot of this information can be found on our website. So you can go under education and you can see what is the recreational path. Now, that doesn't mean if you're on the recreational path, you can't jump over. Right? Or if you're on the technical path, you can't get into leadership at any point, you know. And that is why we have standards and procedures. Because what standards and procedures do is they help identify prerequisites. Right? So for example, what do you think the prerequisites to try scuba are? Very, very little, right? Basically, it's an introduction to scuba diving. Now, what we do differently is we don't labor you with the equipment. We essentially use our Scuba, and we have Scuba as a different training path as well, but the point is, with Try Scuba, you get to go underwater, you get to use a regulator, you get to use a mask, and you get to kick around and look at and feel what it's like to be weightless and underwater, but without the cumbersome of all the equipment, the heavy weights and the tank, because you know that's the stuff that makes you uncomfortable. And what you notice in our teaching philosophy is that the building blocks you will learn in your Try Scuba is essentially the same as day one of your open water class. It's not essentially, it is. So what you will do in your Try Scuba is identical to what you do in day one of open water. So you might be trying scuba, but the person in the same class and next to you is actually involved in an open water class. Because again, our philosophy is if you're going to come in as an open water diver, sure, the limits are 60 feet, 18 meters, or if you're a junior, 40 feet and 12 meters. But here's the gig. Okay, we need to, from minute one, from day one, from the law of primacy, as you learn in our 10 covenants and our teaching philosophy and so forth, you cannot at any expense be on your knees. We will never strap a weight belt around you and stick you on your knees. We won't put all this equipment on you and stick you on your knees. That's the worst thing you could do for somebody, because it teaches them the law of primacy and everything wrong. You have to start out by learning a very, very, very important skill that is called buoyancy. It's trim, good trim, prone position, and buoyancy. And in order to do that, what you have to do is you first have to do that piece. That's what you learn in Try Scuba. That's what you learn in your first day of open water. And guess what? We even have a class over here called Extreme Scuba Makeover. You know why it's called Extreme Scuba Makeover? Because the other agencies are doing us a huge favor. They are teaching people so poorly. They're so afraid. They basically look around to do something else, to something to show up the skills. And we have to have an entry level for them. And we call it Extreme Scuba Makeover because basically we have to strip them of all their wrong learnings, all their wrong philosophy, all their wrong protocol, all their wrong stuff that they're doing, such as being on their knees or, you know, with the BCs and all kinds of crazy stuff that you see out there, you know. We have to unlearn all of that. We strip them down to basically shorts or a swimsuit, and we say, let's start over. That's how we call it Extreme Scuba Makeover. Well, guess what? Extreme Scuba Makeover, open water dive, and Try Scuba the first day are all the same. Imagine that. We have instructors from other agencies come to us and say, you know what, we have a very difficult time. If not, we cannot clear our mask. They can teach scuba diving, but they cannot take their mask off underwater. And I have to take them all the way back to like a Try Scuba or day one of open water class, or what we call Extreme Scuba Makeover, ESM, not to offend them. We don't want to say, you know what, you are so terrible as an instructor. We want you to go back to Try Scuba. They'd be, can't do that. So we rename the class Extreme Scuba Makeover. But in reality, it is starting over. It's stripping you of everything, just like we do in Try Scuba open water, put you in your swimsuit and get you prone position, get you neutrally buoyant. And then once you can breathe, and once you learn that buoyancy is in the breathing and breathing is in the buoyancy, all of a sudden the whole new world opens up. And this is something not taught by anybody across any of the other agencies. They don't realize that they actually have a specialty class called buoyancy because they don't teach that to you in the beginning. We do it exactly opposite. That's the first thing we teach you is buoyancy. It's the first thing we teach you is prone position. The first thing we do. So if you're looking at our structure, you can see you come in over here if you've never dove before, okay? And if you have dove and are certified, a good place to come in is Extreme Scuba Makeover, which it happens to also be the first part of any of what we call our essentials class. Why? Because all of the stuff in Extreme Scuba Makeover is also in essentials. So I just said something very critical that most other agencies and most important to you are unique to UTD is we have a building block method that is consistent. So everything in Extreme Scuba Makeover is also in essentials. So let's say essentials is a set of 16 skills, let's just say. Buoyancy, trim, propulsion, what we call basic 6. S-drill, valve drill, SMB deploy, so on, so on, so on. Well, guess what? The first 3 of those are extreme scuba makeover. See the building block? So you can just say, you know what, I don't know if I want to do a whole essentials. I want to try UTD. So you do extreme scuba makeover. Well, after that one day with us, and you realize how amazing our teaching philosophy is, what you'll do is you'll say, I want to do the rest. So then you continue in your essentials class. See what I'm saying? So that's the building block to this. The same, yeah, you try scuba, you can build into open water. You see what I'm saying? Or you can just come straight into open water. Or you can come straight into essentials. So this is a very important part of this whole structure, is that if you are already certified, you absolutely can come in anywhere. Let's say you are a Tech 1 diver with another agency and you want to come in and do Tech 2. We absolutely allow you to do it. You do not have to go back to essentials or wherever. You can come right in at the Tech 2 level. Now, every single instructor that you ask will tell you the same thing. Absolutely, but there is an evaluation period. That evaluation period is the first day, or we can pre-do it before the class. It just depends on you and your situation. That evaluation, what we are looking for is, are you ready for our Tech 2? If not, we might have to step back to Tech 1. Even so, you might be Tech 1 certified by another person. You might even be a Trimix instructor trainer. I've had to take Trimix instructor trainers back to essentials. Yes, I'm sorry, I know. But that's the reality of the situation in the industry, because they probably bought that certification rather than bought the training and earned the certification. And that's the difference with us, is you don't buy Tech 2. You're buying my time and my training. And what I'm doing is I'm seeing where you fit in our structure, so that way we can move forward. And everything to us is a building block. Everything in Tech 3 is in Tech 2. Or everything in Tech 2 is in Tech 3. Everything in Tech 1 is in Tech 2 and Tech 3. Everything in Tech Creational is in Tech 1, Tech 2, and Tech 3. Everything is essentials is in each one of those. So because it's a building block, I can start you in Extreme Scuba Makeover, move on to essentials, move on to Tech Creational, Tech 1, Tech 2, Tech 3, and I can do it, in sequence over a number of months, weeks, years, whatever your skill level is and experience, and everybody's individual. The most important thing that I would do if I was you is I would say, let me pick my end goal in mind. Not everybody wants to be rebreather 3. Not everybody wants to go to 600 feet on a rebreather. I understand. Not everybody even wants to go beyond 150 feet on a rebreather. I completely understand. So whatever your path is, or you think your path is, set that end goal in mind and then come on in. So let me give you a couple of examples. Just recently, I had a gentleman actually who wanted to be a cave diver. Essentially, he was looking at cave gold. And he had contacted one of the other agencies out there, the one mention any, and they had told him that, sure, show up, absolutely no problems, and we'll take you from never having been in the cave before. You do have an advance, so we're very proud of you. And so within 5 days, we'll have you at full cave. And he's actually pretty excited to do this. He thought after 5 days, he's going to be able to be a full cave diver. Then he started thinking about it a little bit and said, man, you know what? That just is not sitting as comfortable as it should. I mean, he liked the price, was $400. It was 5 days, fly down to Mexico, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. You're a certified cave diver. Basically, go kill yourself, in my opinion. So anyway, he said, he had emailed me and said, hey, I'm shopping around, and I live here in San Diego, and I was very interested in cave diving. I don't have to go to Mexico to do it. And I'd heard your name slung around, and some people talking about your expedition in China in the local dive club. And I thought, you know what, let me just ask your opinion. So I said, well, let me give you a comparison of what it takes in UTD. And then you can make your mind up. And he said, oh, okay. I said, okay. Best way to do this is to start with what we call extreme scuba makeover. What this will do is this will strip away your BC, strip away your fins, strip away your 7mm wetsuit, strip away your 28-pound, believe it or not, yes, 28-pound weight belt, strip away all the noise that's happening in your diving and why you're on your knees doing a little wave when, or you're swimming like a seahorse. Let's get rid of all of that. And he said, how do you know? I said, I go down to La Jolla Shores every week and I see all the seahorses and people falling on each other and waving, people sitting on their knees. It's just mayhem out there. You can see when a diver swam by, it's just silt everywhere. And you're like, so if you were trained locally, this is the quality of training you have. So I'm going to have to get rid of all of that. That's going to take a day. You come in, 2 hours lecture, 2 to 4 hours in the pool will get you really on the path. Now, you probably won't be, but if you are ready to move on, if you do have good trim, good buoyancy, and you've got a good command over your equipment at this point, we can move on from Extreme Scuba Makeover through the Essentials class. The Essentials class, once you can do that, we add on the 5 propulsions. So frog kick, modified frog kick, backward kick, helicopter turns, and modified flutters. We also add on the basic 6. Remove, replace, recovery, blah, 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 blah. We also add on the S drills, valve drills, SMB deploy, ascent drills, all the skills you need. And we have an essentials of overhead. We call it overhead because you're going the cave path. Okay? If you haven't got nitrox yet, we'll build nitrox right into them. We have the ability to say, let's do essentials with nitrox. So at least you get that hammered out before you go down. Then, depending on your skill level after this, we can move into overhead protocols. Now, overhead protocols, as you can see, it sits by itself because it's a feeder for all the other programs. It is one of our hardest classes by far. It's one of the most rewarding classes. This is the first true critical skills class. Essentials is kind of a I show you, you show me. So demonstrate, illustrate, not critical skills. We call it like basically level 1 skills where, I'll show you, okay, you remove and replace your mask, you remove and replace your mask, or regulator, whatever it is, boom. However, this is where the instructor truly becomes shadow diving. And once they're shadow diving, now they're going to start to actually be able to watch how you work as a team, find your holes, give you a few problems to solve, critical skills, kind of like a simulator, and see how you solve and resolve problems. And then afterwards, after videoing all of this, you'll watch yourself and we'll critique you, giving you the pros and the cons. It's an awesome class. And you start out, basically learning the line protocol that's running the line, but you continue on with all the failures of the back gas and the side mount, whatever it is you want to do. If you're doing it in side mount or back gas, whatever you're doing, back gas, back mount, it doesn't matter. All the way through to where you're basically in a blackout situation dealing with these problems. So it takes you from A to Z. Now you'll notice that you don't actually need this class to go into tech, because your tech recreational and or tech 1 has much of the same, excepting the blackout work. So again, that's why we're building block. You can do this without doing that. Okay, but the overhead protocols really is the feeder to cave 1 and rec 1. Why? Because when you go into those environments, you'll be in a complete blackout. So you have to have your protocols and all your skills in blackout situation. You don't need that in tech. That's why we take that 2 days of training away. So you've got a day, 3 to 4 days here, and if you can do them combined, so it's really 3 to 4 days total. 3 to 4 days in overhead. Now you're ready to move on. So far you've got 8 days of training. Now you go to Cave 1. Cave 1, 3 to 5 days. Let's call it 5 days. Now you go to Cave 2. 5 days. So you got 10, 3, 13, 4, call it 14, 3 to 4, 18. So you can have high as 18, as low as, let's say, 16, 15 days. to achieve full cave. That's the full cave level. So I wrote this to him. I said, I know you can do it in 5 with this agency, $400. With us, minimum of 15 or 16, all the way as high as 18. But here's the reality. Very few, if any, can go extreme scuba makeover, essentials, overhead, cave 1, cave 2 in 15 days straight. So we have a requirement. You have to finish your cave 2 after cave 1 by 1 year. You have to finish your overhead protocols to cave 1 by 1 year. And so on and so on. There's no requirement after essentials, but you get my point. We require experience and time between each step. So you'll go extreme scuba makeover. If you feel ready, essentials. When I say ready, you can got good command of trim and buoyancy. Now you can go to essentials. When you get good command of those skills, when you can air share and bend valve drill and so forth, then you go to overhead. When you get a good command of those, then you'll go to cave 1. Then you'll get some cave experience, 25 dives or so. You'll go to cave 2. You see the difference? So sure, in the end, if you did the math, you're going to say, I don't know what people charge, but let's just call it 200 for ESM, or just say 400 there, 800 there, 800, 800. So even if you're going to spend $3,000 versus $500, but you're going to do it over a number of years, when you finish here, you are going to be a safe, competent, confident, and comfortable cave diver. You're not going to be wham, bam, after 5 days and be going, and then you fly home and your wife says to you, hey, how was the trip? Oh, it's fantastic. You going back? No. Why not? No, not comfortable. You won't admit it. You'll give some excuse. Oh, yeah, no, Mexico, and I don't know, Tulum, and who knows? I don't know what. I've seen this so often because people, after 5 days, are just nowhere near comfortable, and you can't be. Overhead environment, cave diving, I don't have to tell you. So if you do your homework and you look around for competent cave instructors that all tell you slowly, step by step. You understand? That's really what it's about. So looking at this chart, you can see that if you came into overhead protocols, you did your cave 2, and then you decided, hey, you know what? I want to go on to do some wreck diving. All we've got to do is not start again. All we've got to do is move you over to wreck 1 and say, okay, let's go dive in the wreck environment. See? So this is, again, why you see this path coming this way and then on to the 2 different sides. Of course, the sort of more standalones are the rebreather and the technical, because they don't require this no visibility training. But they do have failures. Rebreather 1, you are required to have essentials and some technical, like recreational, because you have to have the ability to use oxygen. So these just give you the different paths. What you'll notice is that in our standards and procedures, we have all these prerequisites. I don't want to sit here and repeat them. I'm just giving you an idea of how it all works. If you come in from recreational, you can move this way. So you do Rec 1, Rec 2, Rec 3. You've got a bunch of specialties. Your overhead, we've talked about. You've got your tech recreational 1, 2, and 3. You've got your rebreather 1, 2, and 3. So we've also tried to keep the structure very simple, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. Now, of course, going on to your leadership program, becoming an instructor with us, is how does Jeff put it? It is challenging but not impossible. Yes, this is not put another dollar in. You don't just send me your check and you become a certified instructor. It doesn't work like that. Okay? So this actually requires that your first step is that, of course, you need to become a dive master / open water instructor or even foundational instructor. And that's a requirement for everyone. Even if you are an instructor, trainer for another agency, you cannot cross over there. You need to understand the foundation of UTD. So you need to come in as a foundational instructor. Even so, you may never teach an open water student. I don't care. If you can't teach ASM, you cannot revolutionize this world. That class is revolutionizing the world of diving. You will see people stealing that everywhere. Everywhere. I've seen copycat programs stealing those ideas and making their own version of it because it's such a powerful class. Well, if you don't understand the core of that, and you're an ITT, then yeah, stay there. because you will not want to come teach for us, because we do require you understand that. We do require that you work with, teaching people to clear a mask with no hands while inverted. See? Stuff like that. Stuff you've never even heard of. Not because we're trying to make it hard or difficult, but because that's the watermanship and the skill level that our students have when they go in the open water class. Once you've got your foundational instructor, once you've got your open water instructor / foundational instructor, then you can move into any one of your specialty areas. Cave, overhead, rebreather, tech. You don't have to do them sequentially, you can do them after your foundational. So we've got those chunks and pieces as you move. So there wasn't enough space on this chart to really depict it correctly, but from foundational you move to everything else. So really your entry point to us is dive master / open water instructor. They're almost exactly the same. We do have some other instructor categories, kind of like flight school, kind of like a ground instructor, where we it's a book instructor, so to speak, where you can teach, for example, regulator maintenance. You don't have to be a scuba diving instructor to teach regulator maintenance. You have to be a regulator technician and certified and all that, but you don't even have to scuba dive. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, splendid. So we have instructors for those levels as well as your traditional open water instructors. We do have, I wouldn't say an easier, but a more traditional path where you can come in and just become an open water instructor, start teaching these basic classes, get your experience teaching, get your couple hundred students under your belt before you start moving into foundational instructor and or recreational and technical instructor. Anyways, if you have any other questions about our training paths and or about UTD, feel free to email us at info@unifiedteamdiving.com. And as always, gang, safe diving.